Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fudinovic chess channel. This is International Master Shiyam Thavandiran, and today I have one of the most brilliant chess games ever played ready to show you. Now, this was played in September 19, 2022, so almost 100 years ago now. Just shows how brilliant this game was, that it stood the test of time, and we're still marveling at it today. So, white was Efim Bogoljubov, and black was Alekhine. Alexander Alekhine was the fourth world chess champion. He wasn't world champion at this moment. That would happen 5 years later in 1927. But this game was a foreshadowing of his brilliance. And what's interesting about this game is he has sort of two iconic masterpieces. This one, and another game, and both of them were wins with the black pieces. So he would show that you can win brilliant games with both colors. A lot of masterpieces happen with the white pieces, but Alexander Alekhine was actually Gary Kasparov's favorite player, and of course Gary Kasparov also had many of his best games with the black pieces. So it's inspiring in that sense too, just very original and going against the conventional wisdom back then. So let's get into the game. And sorry, the location, the tournament was, I believe, Hastings, 1922. And yeah, this, again, one of the most brilliant chess games ever played, and I call it mind over matter, and you'll see why. So, Bogoljubov opens with d4, and Alekhine chooses f5, which is called the Dutch defense. So it's a very double-edged opening. Black takes some risks by opening this way, but you fight for the center and you gain space. So definitely ambitious opening, and it's definitely playable. It's just you don't see it regularly played by top players. So bishop b4 check, and here it's sort of something to note is it's usually better to take with the queen, so that this knight comes to c3. On c3 it attacks more central squares, whereas on d2 it's not as well placed. So going forward, the queen comes out to b3. So already this is not such a great plan. White supposedly stops e5. Actually, I think black can play it anyway. After c5 check, you just move the king over, and yeah, queen b3 doesn't really do much. But Alekhine decides to go with king h8 anyway. And now e5, very nice move. The point being that white can't actually take the pawn because the knight on d2 is hanging. So essentially white just wasted a bunch of time, and black anyway gets to advance in the center. And now a5, stopping this b4 advance. And interestingly, if white tries to play a3, black has this very nice move a4. It's a very important concept that Capablanca actually spent some time talking about in his book Chess Fundamentals. The idea that one pawn can hold two pawns, and this is actually called a backwards pawn on b2. So very important strategic concept. Bogoljubov doesn't allow that, so prepares a3 with b3 first. But now Alexander Alekhine plays queen e8. So another thing he was very famous for was playing on both sides of the board. So he had what people call a very extraordinary vision of the whole chessboard. So he didn't. He would just he would use all of his resources from both sides, and he had very sort of a global picture of the chessboard, and this allowed him to play very dynamically. So here you saw him play a5, and now the queen goes to e8 to go to h5 to play on the king side. So he's playing on the queen side and the king side, which would be a hallmark of his chess. So now another nice point is that, again, this pawn can't be taken, this time because there's this knight g4, and now you're attacking the queen and h2, and then this would just be a checkmate. So yeah, you see how Alekhine's using the dynamics to his advantage, and Bogoljubov plays h4 to renew this threat. Now you're threatening to take on e5, so Alekhine defends the pawn, and now knight g5. So here white's position is already kind of passive. Bogoljubov tries to play knight g5 to play f3. Alekhine just simply develops the bishop to d7, the knight comes back. Now f4, e4. So again, gaining space. Now rook d1. So Alexander Alekhine in his notes suggested d5 as a way for white to gain some space in the center, which looks like a great move. Instead, he plays rook d1, and now Alekhine himself plays d5. So black's position is definitely very advantageous. He's got control of the center. White's pieces aren't very well coordinated. So still, you have to convert this. So let's see how Alekhine plays this. 97, very nice move. The idea is he wants to play for a4. So say something like rook d2. There's a4, b4, now you can take. So now the pawn can't recapture. And now you can just plant the knight on d5. So very nice strategic play by Alekhine. I should mention that there's a whole debate about Alekhine's how to pronounce his name. Actually, I talked to one of my friends who's Russian native speaker, and he was telling me that even among Russians, there's two pronunciations. It also has to do with the historic time of Russia in the 1930s and 40s. And then, of course, a lot of Westerners, and I used to say Alekhine myself, but I'm trying my best to be a little more cultured and say Alekhine. But yeah, you'll definitely hear different pronunciations of his name. But actually, there's no consensus. So definitely, I don't think there's really a wrong way to pronounce his name. So 97, now white prevents that idea that we just spoke about. And now the knight comes back to c6. So in some sense, it almost feels like Alekhine has a sense of humor. The knight immediately comes back and is going to go plant itself on b4, now that this square is weak. And he was just very, he had a rich imagination in chess. And it's just a pleasure to look at his games, and definitely... you should definitely let me know in the comments if what you thought of this game, and if you want to see more games by him, because his catalog is just full of brilliant chess. So now the queen comes back to e8. So as I mentioned, Alekhine can play on both sides of the board. Here he's targeting a4. So it's really beautiful how the queen was, targeted towards the king side. Now it just hops back, and he directs his eyes towards the queen side now. Now, Bogoljubov decides to sacrifice the pawn. He could have played queen takes d4, but he didn't like giving up the square in the center, so he decides to sacrifice the pawn and bring his knight back. This rook is extremely awkward, so I think he was trying to maybe play g4, but definitely Bogoljubov could have chosen a better arrangement for his pieces. The bishop comes back to d7 to stop g4, and knight d2, b5, knight d1, knight d3, rook takes. So now this is the start of the mind over matter combination. So knight d3, Alekhine must have saw the entire combination starting with this move, which is really incredible. So Bogoljubov recaptures the pawn. Now b4, rook takes. So he was probably expecting black to just simply recapture the queen, and yeah, surely black is much better here, again, because of the coordination of the pieces. And this would have been a perfectly fine way to play. But Alekhine chooses this amazing b takes c3, sacrificing our queen and two rooks. So again, just to look at that again, black loses all of his major pieces, the queen and two rooks, and white still has white is up two whole rooks. And what's amazing is that this pawn can't be stopped from queening. So this is the mind over matter, how Alekhine constantly was willing to sacrifice material, and he was just able to calculate and have the vision that he didn't need to play so conservatively. He can play these sacrificial lines, and yeah, this line is just absolutely brilliant. There's nothing white can do now to stop the pawn from queening, And yeah, just to again emphasize that this single pawn is sort of triumphing or is victorious over the two rooks. And yeah, sacrificing all of your rooks and queen like that is really remarkable. So of course, but it doesn't stop there. There's more brilliance to come. Queen c1 check, knight f1, knight e1. So black is just taking advantage of white's passive pieces. And now knight f3, bishop takes, pawn takes, and now the next brilliant move. So just looking at material, black is winning now. Black has a queen for a rook and knight, but you still have to convert it. And I was reading Ruben Fine's book, I believe it's called The World's Greatest Chess Games, and it was really fascinating how his characterization of Alekhine, and it was that Alekhine was one of the best technical players of all time, in that when he got a winning position, he just enjoyed winning so much that he would never make a slip or make a mistake, that he just played with absolute precision until the very end. And you can see that here. He was just absolutely ruthless in converting a winning position. And yeah, he starts with this brilliant move, queen e2. So actually white's in zigzag. If whatever piece white moves is going to cause a concession. So for example, if you play something like knight h3 to attack the queen, I can just play knight g4, and again we get the same concept of white unable to stop the pawn from black sacrificing the queen for a second time, and again you can't stop the pawn. So it really the thing about the sense of humor comes up there, where surely he was thinking about things like that, sacrificing a queen for a second time and again winning in the same way. And sorry, the other moves were right. If rook h3, again you can have something, you can play something like knight g4. If you take, then there's queen g2 mate, and of course the rook can't come back to protect because you just capture. So white is just completely paralyzed. d5, and now so zugzwang means that it's actually white actually can't make any useful moves. So black is just giving white back the move with king g8, h5, and now back to h7. So again, you see that sense of humor. Alekhine's kind of just toying with his opponent. And I should mention Bogoljubov is a really brilliant player. It's just he was up against Alekhine, who is one of the all-time chess geniuses. But I'll definitely show a Bogoljubov game in the future. He had some amazing games himself. That it's just in this game he was unfortunately on the wrong end of brilliancy. So he tries to get some breathing room with e4. Alekhine just captures it. He tries to, I'm not sure about f6, but again, it's lost position. It's hard to suggest good moves. And again, that sense of humor of Alekhine just wants to sacrifice the queen again. And it's the same exact concept. This is actually what happened in the game. Except here, the king can actually stop the pawn from queening, but still it's the pawn being victorious over a stronger piece in the knight. So really really spectacular chess, and he did this all the time. So king f2, and sorry, I just had a thought, like it's almost like I'm a big basketball fan, so growing up I was a big fan of Vince Carter, and every game he would do something that was really spectacular, like some kind of acrobatic play, like doing something in the air, or something that really made the fans get out of their seats. And I think Alekhine is exactly like that. You can always expect some kind of brilliancy from him, and he is one of the first players, and especially because he was the world champion. He was the undisputed player to play in such a style. He definitely inspired many other players like Mikhail Tal, Garry Kasparov, and but yeah, just a bunch of the most imaginative attacking players were inspired by Alekhine's games. So yeah, King f2, and so now we go into a pawn ending, and Alekhine actually converts without much problems. And here I just want to note that you can still go wrong actually. F5 check and the position is actually a draw, which is really amazing. But I won't go into the details, but I'll just mention, for example, one line where now you have to give up to d5 pawn, but it was still actually possible to go wrong on the very last move. But of course, Alekhine plays d5 check, and white resigned, because now the black king will come to f5, and it's just a technically winning endgame from there. So I hope you enjoyed it. That was, again, one of the most brilliant sacrifices I've ever seen. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what you thought of the game, if you liked it, if you want to see more Alekhine games, because there are definitely a lot we can show. And yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.